And I'm joined again by Mr. J. Buchanan. Jane, it's an absolute pleasure to have you back on the show, man. How you been keeping?
I've been very busy, but very goodly. Thank you. And how you been, man?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, life's good. Like you say, Christmas time, everyone's busy and happy, and lots of time with the family, which is always nice, pal. So
Absolutely.
that's the main thing. But was the last time we spoke, it was around Rival Sons releases with your double release of Dark Fighter and Lightbringer.
Right.
Now we're talking about your solo release coming up with
Hmm.
Weapons of Beauty. With it though, it seems like a really personal record. I mean, was this album written in a specific period of time, or is this something you've been working on in the background for quite a while?
There were a couple of tracks that I worked on in the background. Um, eh, and then the rest of the album, I would say the bulk of the record was written just prior to recording.
Oh, okay, so it was a very
This whole last, let's see, January through early April. I stayed out in the desert, out in an underground bunker, um, trying to write the rest of this album.
I remember you saying that you were going to do that when we last spoke, that you'd already sort of set your mind on that's how you were going to write. How was that process in doing that? I mean, what does that kind of level of solitude do to you when you're writing?
I think at first it was really difficult.
Mm,
I think at first it was a really difficult way to go about it because setting everything aside and isolating myself with the express intention of writing, I think that it took me a while to become acclimated
mm,
to the situation because at first, like the silence, and the isolation, at first the that silence becomes so loud, it's like deafening.
I can
Even
imagine.
though even though that's strange, but it's like that's the silence and that isolation is really um the loudest and strongest thing in the room. So it took me a while to get over that. And I think that for the most part, writing is about writing as much as I can until something sticks, And so until you begin to write from this core
Mm.
place, because you can, at least for myself, I can write as an exercise. Could probably sit and complete a song by the time this podcast is done, but to get to a deep part of yourself, for me, it's always a process,
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you kind of got to chip away stone, as it
Yeah.
were, to get there, haven't you? At the end of the day, when you're trying to
Yeah.
write from what this album seems to be, which seems to be a real personal, really raw record. Obviously, opening with the first single, Caroline, which you've already released, was that the first single to be released purely because it was the opener to the album, or was there other want to have that as your
I
debut?
think that, the idea of picking when it comes to, which songs are you going to release, what's going to be a single, or
Mm,
all of that. The only thing I can do is try to rely on like a collective interest when I speak with people. I have songs that, artistically, that I'll gravitate toward, but I've spent my whole life songwriting, you know. I've spent my whole life creating, and I've also written these songs. So something that I might like might not be what people are going to gravitate toward.
yeah.
But Caroline is one that unilaterally just, that was one that people would tell me, like, oh, that song really hits me. It really affects me. So it just made sense. Like, let's release that one first.
Fair play. I mean, like we said, there's a real rawness to and a vulnerability to this record, and I don't say that as like a derogatory term. I think there's strength in being that vulnerable, and I think being that open. It feels really raw. It's a very emotional record. Certainly from the listener's point of view. I mean, for me, it kind of reminded me of like a Jeff Buckley's Grace album. I mean, not
Sure.
stylistically, but that kind of energy about it, that kind of rawness. I mean, that's one of my favorite albums of all time, and I can't remember the last time I heard a record that had, that kind of level of emotion to it.
I'll
Um,
take that, man. Who doesn't like the Grace record? I mean,
well,
come on.
exactly, it's a great record, man. But did you, other than like sort of the solidarity did of how you wrote, did you have a want to evoke that emotion when you were writing? I mean, did you have a plan, or was it just what came from within?
I think that for the most part, with when you look at the trajectory of my writing with Rival Sons over the last, three records that we've made, I think I've been writing more and more
Mhm.
toward that. With the Dark Fighter, Lightbringer records, you have songs like Dark Side,
Yeah.
Rapture, these songs where writing for the most part has become a channel of communication, with I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but like trying to communicate with the mind's eye, deep into the imagination. And somehow, the closer you get to the bone and the more vulnerable you get, the less calculated you're capable of being. And I think that I don't really consider myself a very calculated artist or writer, And I think that that's because I tend to um, I tend to rely on instinct that way,
Yeah.
And with this collection of songs right here, I wasn't sure of much, Lee.
Mm.
One thing I was sure of is that all of the writing needed to come from as deep as possible. I needed to write as close to the bone as I could, and so going into it, it was right from that place,
Mm.
only from that place, and make sure there's enough space on the record, environmentally
Yeah.
and arrangement wise, that there was going to be enough space there, and that was really the only criteria.
Do you feel like you say, like with Darkfire and Lightbringer, and to a certain extent Hollow Bones as well, and for Roots, that that side of your writing has really started to come into the sort of forefront with Rival Sons? Do you think that kind of prompted the way you were writing this solo album, or do you think you would have gone that way?
Well, I think that that's the way that I've always written.
Mm.
But I think that with Rival Sons, we're a rock and roll band, so there are expectations. I'm in a band with guys that like to make a lot of noise, and because we're a rock band,
Mm.
and throughout the Rival Sons career, you have songs like "Where I've Been," Jordan. You have these other songs that tell very intimate stories and that are delicate in that sense. And so that's really been the chief way, the chief approach to my writing in general. But I think that over the years, with each record, just the refinement, um, that refinement process is also comes tandem with embracing whatever part of my writing can be seen as authentic, or you know, just trying to write in the way that only I can write.
Mm.
Trying to write my stories and express my feelings in a way that only I can express them. You know, I think that the trajectory of getting there has been very natural, and if anything, um, at first, when I knew I was going to be making this Weapons of Beauty record, it was suddenly just complete freedom, right? I'm not part of a team on this one. I have no one to collaborate with. I don't have to compromise with anything. We don't need drum breaks. I don't need to put anything in there. I don't, you know, I don't need to put any guitar solos or just anything. I don't need to put any distortion or do anything unless the song specifically calls for it. Whereas, when you're writing for in Rival Sons, we have, when we have these identities, and there needs to be room for everyone to speak their piece
Yeah, of course.
because, we're a band. Um, and room needs to be provided for that, which is fantastic. But um, I think that I was needing to write in a way where that where none of those obligations were there,
Yeah, makes
where I
sense.
need to compromise and just try to do my very, very best to try to make each song about the lyrics and sparse arrangements. And of course, frame everything around my voice as the narrator.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, and that makes sense. I mean, I remember, so I was at the Covent Garden show that you did solo wise
Yeah,
last,
right. Yeah.
and seeing, the stuff that you're doing there, and I think I'm right in thinking that right at the end you did Caroline, and
Yeah.
to hear it, it was a great band that you had with it, but what stung to me most was how, I mean, you've always had this soul element to your voice, of course, and it's this deep. But you were doing a lot more songs, and because maybe the arrangements were sparser, and highlighting yourself, it just seemed to be on a completely different trajectory. Well, it was going to be it's a solo release, like you say, you're not battling, but you're not having to be a
Well,
part of something. It's
yes, with using the word battling and all of that, like with being in a band like Rival Sons. Okay, so when you being at Covent Garden at a
mm,
solo show, well, one thing that would be very, very different, aside from the obvious, I'm not playing rock and roll songs, but the songs are, like when I opened that show, I think that I told the audience something along the lines of like, I don't, I'm not sure what you're here for, but
yeah,
I know what I'm here for, and I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take my time. And if you look at a solo show like that, I mean, probably a good 20% of the entire evening is just me talking to people and talking to the audience and telling these stories and expressing myself in a very intimate way. And I could never do that with Rival Sons. It's just, there's no chance. In between every song, I mean, half of the time, these guys, because we're a rock band.
yeah.
So everyone's chomping at the bit. And every time I feel like if I just want to take even 20 seconds in between songs to address the audience or talk to people, it's like I'm holding back a team of, you know, horses behind me, like, whoa, 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 hold on. I just got to say something. Whoa, whoa, hold on, wait. Because there's so much energy, and that's the environment. That's the environment of the band is keep it up. Let's go, let's go. Um, because those are the kind of shows we put on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with the solo material, it's just the complete opposite of that, you know. Um, the space, even on this record, the space and the empty spaces on this record they're as much a part of the arrangement
Yeah.
as, you know, the players in the band for sure. And I like to play with that empty space and play with you have the painting, but in order to have the painting, you also have to have the blank white wall behind the painting. You know, you need to have the gallery surface, and that plays a part, and it allows for refractory of this input that you're getting. And I think that refractory is a very, very beautiful instrument to be played.
Yeah, sometimes it's about the space between the notes that are being played rather than the notes
Abs-
themselves sometimes.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, obviously, you had your solo career before Rival Sons
Hmm.
and with the Buchanan band and stuff, which you sort of famously, turn around and say, you torched it all and you didn't resonate with that side of things so much anymore once it was done. Um, but with this album, I feel like it sounds like coming from a guy who's really comfortable where he is in life, knows who he is, knows what he's saying. Do you think you've put a lot to bed since then, or do you think it was just this is a completely new journey?
Oh, interesting. That's a great, great question, Lee. The more skeletons you put to bed, the more skeletons in the closet that you're able to put to bed and reconcile with, the more pop out for you to wrestle with
Yeah.
again. The more things that you realize that you can put to bed, and you feel that you have some things figured out. Well, the more emotionally intelligent you get from figuring these things out, you're also shown how many blind spots and weak spots you have. So, I think that the more ground I cover and the more songs I write, and the more vulnerable you get, you're able to put some things to bed. But like the adventure never stops, man. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that things are able to stay fresh and new. I'm not jaded. I'm not jaded. Music is still just as mysterious to me as it's ever been. And it doesn't matter how many songs I write, it's still this amazing mystery, that all of this energy, and you know I'm thankful for that, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that's how you process things? I mean, like it wasn't until I read the press release for this release that I read about, your speech impediment that you had as a child and everything, and
Yeah.
you struggled to communicate verbally on the record. I mean, do you think music has been how you kind of process and communicate, and that sort of, embedded in you, as if you like?
I think that music just felt like the purest line of communication.
Mm.
you know we I it felt like that when I was a little kid, and sometimes it feels that way now. I mean, becoming an adult, you develop all of these responsibilities, and um, but music is a thing that communicates. It just cuts through the bullshit in a different way, and it'll render you powerless, and it'll fill your eyes with tears. And sometimes music, when you're not expecting it at all, put something on and it'll just crush you with emotion,
Yeah.
you know? And the music just comes to you and it says, I'm going to reveal something to you that you haven't been aware of. Boom. And music can do that. I can't think of any other art form that does that. Music is, when people sing, you can spot a liar a mile away. You can spot the pitch, the sales pitch, and you know to stay away, because once you hear the sales pitch, song's dead, you know. And I say that, and I really, for me, music is not about sales pitch at all. But somebody might listen to something I've written and be like, sales pitch all the way. But for me, all I know is everything that I'm capable of. I'm the vulnerability, and that place that I'm trying to write from
Hmm.
is directly the antithesis of that, But that's that whole thing of the further in you go, the more lost you are, and the more you know where you are, you know, or however that works. The more you learn, the less you understand, sort of the thing.
I know what you mean. I think it's that thing that with like going by music and communication, it's also what us as listeners will read into. I've got songs that I absolutely adore and I find them very personal just because naturally you put your own experiences and your own life stories onto things when you're listening to them. But
Yeah.
friends will take a song, and even if they really do link with it up the same thing, they've got a completely different reason as to why. And it might not be that particular lyric, it might be something else in it, or it might just be a mood of it that links people up. And yet there's this sense of communication and a sense of togetherness, even though everybody's getting something completely unique out of it.
Well, that's part of what makes a song and makes these songs and these records, you know, that we all live our lives to, you know. That's what makes them so special. That's what makes a live concert so magical and so special. Is there's a collective consciousness, but each person in that collective is experiencing something that is uniquely their own.
Yeah. I mean, and from a songwriting point of view, do you think you trust your own processes and you trust yourself as a songwriter more now than you did when you were a younger man setting off, so to speak?
No,
Uh,
no, I wish I did, but um, when it's there, it's there.
mm,
When the fire and that Holy Spirit creative energy shows up and and you're just guided that way at your you know, at my very best for my experiences with writing, when it's there, when the true inspiration is truly there, you're just a passenger, you know. And that's the best. That's when it's at its best. And then there's all the other stuff. And what it takes showing up. I know that about songwriting. Show up. Sit down and try to write. Show up and immerse yourself in it. And what you're writing might be just complete shit, but just keep writing. And then you refine and you end up finding that voice. Um, Writing as a matter of exercise is still writing, and it's important to do. You know, any songwriters out there listening to this podcast, they know you'll do anything to just try to not have to write a song. You'll do anything other than sit down and just do the fucking work. You'll think of any reason. Oh, I've got to get this piece of gear. Oh, in order to do that, I got to get that one thing. Oh, I got to wait and talk to so and so. Like, no, just sit down and write. Just sit down and play and write, you know? Um, but yeah, it hasn't gotten any easier. Not to not to write the good stuff
no.
because that inspiration is something that is completely outside me. And I really wish it weren't. Lee, things would be so much easier if I could dial this up. But I just can't. I just can't.
So on that level, like when you were at that core writing, you know, when you're in the bunker for this for the sort of core element of the writing, you said a couple of songs was already in the works, but do you remember what song it was in particular that started that ball rolling for the bulk of the album?
Well, Weapons of Beauty Out in the Desert was one of the first songs I wrote to completion. And even when I wrote that song, it was there, but it wasn't all the way there. But it was enough to keep me going.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all you need, man. You just need if you can finish a song that you just can feel decently about. That's the validation. That's just enough petrol in your tank to get you to the next station, you know. And it tends to work that way. It's just enough for you to survive to get to the next, just enough water for your horse to get to the next Spanish mission, you know, and to keep you from starving. I think, you know, one of the more interesting writing, one of the more interesting songs was when I'd sometimes stop off to see my mother and father up in the mountains on my way into the depth of the Mojave Desert. It's about a 2.5 hour drive, sometimes 3 hours, sometimes more with traffic. And I would drive out there and I'd spend 5, 6, 7 days out there. And then I'd come home for 1 or 2 nights to be with my family. And then I'd go straight back out. And I did that for just about 3 months. And I went and I visited my parents. On my way up, had some lunch. And my mother says to me, she says, "Oh, you have a couple of boxes that are here from, really? I do?" She says, "Yeah, it was way back in a closet." I said, "Oh." She said, would you, can you take those?" "Yeah, of course. I don't want, you're not my storage unit. Of course. Yeah, I'll take them." So I grabbed these boxes. And with that, there's, a bunch of cassette tapes, um, old newspaper clippings of my exploits and from high school, and early career things, love letters, high school yearbooks, um, and old books, periodicals, um, and a lot of photographs, um, from my youth. And, from these years, I think, leading up to about 23, 24 years old or so, 25. And so I had all of these things and I didn't really know what was in the boxes. So I go up and I go up into the desert. I'm sequestered in my bunker. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, well, I should go out to my van and grab those boxes and see what's in there. Because again, I'm just searching for an excuse to keep myself from writing.
Yeah.
Oh, I should see I wonder what that is. So I bring these things down into the bunker and I start looking through them. And I'm seeing old love letters and some old poetry, thumbing through yearbooks, and, you know, all this stuff. And man, I didn't like how it made me feel. There was something about interfacing with a younger and more naive self
Yeah.
that made me uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so I took it all outside and I burned it all. And I lit it on fire and I watched it burn. And because I just thought, I've been without all of this stuff, high school diploma, like everything.
Yeah.
I've been without all of these things for all of these years. I certainly don't need them, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it was the next day that I wrote Deep Swimming.
Ah, okay.
And if you look at Deep Swimming, if you listen to it,
Mm.
the song is made of small fragments, just like you're thumbing through, or just like you're rifling through photographs, like you're rifling through old storage boxes, because it's just a flash of different visual memories and sense memories. You know, this song starts off with the coats and the clocks and the memories,
Mm.
the clouds like outstretched arms, the summer sprinklers and the fescue, the clock radios and circus charms. And the entire song is set up that way where it's like, just small fragments that make a
So,
larger story. And that wasn't a conscious thing. I wasn't thinking about my experiences, but the writing just happened very quickly that way. And so that song ended up being all of those memories were able to exist in that song now instead of these wasteful boxes collecting dust somewhere in my parents' house, or God forbid in my house.
seems like a
know
very useful.
yeah. But yeah, that was a very interesting process for me.
I mean, one of the songs that really hit home to me was Shower of Roses. Where did that come from?
Shower of Roses, that was one, it's it's so interesting. I've talked to a couple of people and they say, "Ooh, well, that sounds very autobiographical, Jay." You know, of you, you know, playing in a rock and roll band for the last 18 years. I said, I never thought of that personally. I was never writing from that place,
Yeah.
you know, um, because there's never been anything about Rival Sons that I felt was prohibitive, you know. It's like that's that's my family, you
Yeah.
know. But no, it was more about these Shower of Roses was much more about um, not giving yourself license to live the life that you truly want to live.
Yeah.
And you can blame it on whatever, but you're the one who makes the rules ultimately. And you can sit back and you can scorn X, Y, and Z. But if you're not living authentically the life that you truly want to create, you're the one in charge. You're the one in charge. You know, are you trapped in a bad marriage? You don't think it's good? Leave. Just go. Leave everything and go and move to a fucking monastery or just do whatever. You're in an abusive place or just whatever. Shift gears. You know, you don't like your job? Get another job. You know, don't be afraid of being broke. Being poor never killed anybody. Well, circumstances definitely lead to destruction
Yeah.
with with no resources. Actually, that would be a foolish statement. But like discomfort can help shape you. And that song "Shower of Roses" was just very much about like the life that you long for exists out there, and you can be the purveyor you are the purveyor of your own future. You know, you don't, unless you don't have to be the victim of circumstances. You know, these circumstances can dictate many, many things, but not all the time. They don't always have to dictate everything about your life. And they don't always need to completely dictate the course of your future. And Shower of Roses is just very much about, you know, it's about that.
See, that's what I got from it because, like, last year, being honest, we've spoken a few times now. I feel like I can talk to you a little bit on a personal level. Like, I had a bit of a, I'll bring it down. I had a bit of a mental lull. I've been through some CBT, been through some therapy and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
faced a few of my own demons. And, I was doing that thing of blaming things on other people and things that happened and stuff. And the counsel I was seeing was like, you do realize that, yeah, that was exactly what you said. Like, that was crap. What happened to you?
Yeah,
This was rubbish, but you're not where you were when that happened anymore. So you can
exactly.
either choose to dwell in it, you can choose to sit in it, or you can choose to do something about it.
Well, there's so many metaphors and song and so many adages, proverbs about these things. But you can't grab on to a future if you're holding on to your past, you know. I mean, you just can't. Your hands are full.
Yeah.
Your hands are full and you'll sit there and tell yourself that your hands are full. And so then you won't have a free hand to grab on to, the tail of that dragon that could lead you, you know, toward a future that is unsure but different.
So
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're you've gotten your counseling and that you're headed toward whatever
oh,
that direction may be.
no, thanks, Jay, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, much better place now. But thanks, dude. Um Earlier on we mentioned the whole sort of, me energetically wise sort of comparing it to Grace, and obviously both those albums, both your album and Grace has a cover of it.
Oh yeah.
You've got Dance Me to the End of Love on yours, but what made you choose that Leonard Cohen song or in that cover generally to put onto the album?
That so I mean, first of all, for songwriters, I mean, Leonard Cohen is the patron saint of romanticism,
Mm.
for all of us in this craft. Um, I'd always loved that song, and I have covered it over the years many times
So I
in
remember
in
seeing you
in,
doing it at Covent Garden.
in very different ways.
Mm.
You know, I've done it in ways that were where it was a lot more akin to Leonard Cohen's original, with that, the more minor traditional Jewish melody. Da 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 da. But for this one, I wanted to take those lyrics and just look at the lyrics and infuse joy and revelry in these lyrics that are so celebratory of love. They're celebrating love. And, I know when he began writing this song, he's gone on record as saying, like, those opening lines, uh, dance me to your beauty with the burning violin, and dance me through the panic till I'm gathered safely in. That he was talking about the musicians in the concentration camps during World War II in Germany, Nazi Germany. Um, the these prisoners that were being forced to play their violins or play their instruments while people were being marched, to the gas chambers, and marched to their demise, to their horrific deaths. But he also goes on record to say, like, this is also a love song. And there are many lyrics in there that aren't morose.
Yeah.
And I wanted to claim this poetry um, in joy. And, I'm allowed to do that. I'm
Yeah.
an artist. I can reinterpret I can reinterpret those lyrics 100 times if I want. And that's what makes it so cool. And I like the way the song turned out because it's upbeat,
It is.
and it makes you want to dance a little bit,
It's very,
I've danced with my wife when we listened through back to the vinyl. And well, she's the real reason that song is even on there.
okay.
Yeah, because that's one of our songs. And I remember she said, "Are you going to do Dance Me to the End of Love?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I guess I will."
It's important to have those moments together, though, isn't it? It's
Of course it is. Yeah.
important, man. You said read somewhere that you saying that being part of the Bruce Springsteen film was kind of a catalyst in speeding up on doing the solo album. Is that right? Or did I
It
read?
was, yeah. Yeah, it was. When you and I spoke at Covent Garden, I was being given an opportunity, right?
Mm,
To do something I've never done before. I've never been in a blockbuster movie,
yeah.
a big movie, where I'm hanging out with these amazing world-class actors and being directed by a visionary, brilliant filmmaker like Scott Cooper.
Mm,
Um, that was something entirely new. And it really just struck me that I had been putting off very much that shower of roses
mm,
mentality. I had been putting this off. When rival sons got together, it was understood that, that we specifically had a meeting about this early on. Listen, yes, great. Let's play, rock and roll. I will be releasing records and touring solo throughout, you know, everything we're doing. And the whole band was like, yeah, of course, man. Because they knew, everyone was familiar with you know,
yeah.
what all my solo music was about. And that just, that dried up pretty quickly because Rival Sons got so busy.
Mm, can understand that.
that and I got so used to collaborating and compromising in my creativity that um it just fell by the wayside. I never meant for it to, but I did. I let that happen. That's no fault of the band,
No.
you know. That's just I let that happen because I got sidetracked. And everyone, all of my family, all of my friends, Dave Cobb, our producer and my close friend, when are you going to make a solo record, man? When are you going to do this? Oh, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. A couple of years go by. Oh, yeah, I'm working on it. And because I don't make it a priority and really just like buckle down and get it done, it never happened. It never happened. And that was part of why I felt like I needed to go into the desert and sequester myself, like, and be completely alone and to isolate myself as a matter of commitment to make sure this happens. Above all, make sure this is seen to completion. And it was terrifying to me, Lee, because up until the very last day when I needed to drive away for the last time,
Mhm.
and I packed up my generator and I packed everything up, I was still just fraught with insecurity. Didn't finish everything that I meant to finish. I didn't get I didn't get the one song that I needed for this or that. Um, because I was living in a vacuum. Yeah, I hadn't shared the songs with anyone. I mean, I sent a couple of demos over to Jeremy Lipking, my
Oh yeah.
friend who painted the cover,
Mm.
because I had called him while I was out there and I said, Jeremy, listen, this man is a world-class artist. I still can't believe he painted that painting that became my album cover. I can't believe that I have a Jeremy Lipking album
Yeah.
cover.
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. But I called Jeremy up and I said, "Hey, man, I think I'm writing a Jeremy Lipking painting. I think this is gonna sound like a Lipking painting, and um, and I think it does actually. Still, I stand by that. But I hadn't shown anyone these songs, and I hadn't sent them to my producer, my manager, or anyone. And so, as I was leaving the desert uh, to come home and then hop on a flight out to Savannah, Georgia, to record, I wasn't sure where I was in the process. Yeah.
Do you feel like being part of the film because you're a part of a different creative process? Was that what it was to sort of G you up in a sense, or was it just
Well, it was like this. I was being given this opportunity,
mm,
and I was thinking, well, will I get any notoriety? Will I get any exposure because of this film? I mean, thinking, I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe I'm in like four scenes. Sure. But it really became, if I don't make this record now, when am I going to make it?
Mm,
I'm going to be in a film this year, you know? I'm going to be in a film and, this is time. I need to do this right now. So that was really getting that opportunity is what really spurred me to get as serious as I needed to get.
yeah.
There was a direct correlation there.
And then obviously Scott ends up sequencing the album as well.
Yes,
Like
yeah,
that.
Scott Cooper. When it the day I finished recording this album, or the very next day,
Yeah.
when all of the musicians had flown home, they were all on early flights. And by the way, all of these musicians that are on there, they are all world class. The drummer the drummer Chris Powell and his brother Leroy Powell, who was on pedal steel,
Mm.
and he played some guitars as well. I've been playing with these guys since I was 16 years old,
Oh,
and they turned into be some of the most sought after um, like session musicians in all in Nashville, you know, and then Brian Allen on bass and JD Simo, who is, you know, a great friend that I love so much, and then Phil Towns on the keys. These are all people that I have played with over the years, you know, that I've known. This was this very specific band that I curated, you know, and so when they were all flying home early in the morning, I was on a later flight leaving Savannah, and I called my manager and I said, "Listen, I think I think we made the record that we needed to make." But I said, I want to get Scott Cooper to sequence it. I want to ask him because I don't trust myself. I want I want someone, I want a writer like that to put these songs in order where the story arc makes sense,
Yeah, makes
you
sense.
know. And immediately, you know, I reached out to Scott Cooper immediately, and he thankfully, like, so generously agreed to do this. And he gave me a full dissertation of each one of the songs, you know.
Wow,
Here's why this song belongs here. Here's why this song belongs here. And that's exactly the sequence I used, you know.
it's amazing, man.
It's amazing he did that for me. I'm still blown away by it. It's so generous of him. And he did an amazing job.
It absolutely did. I mean, you were talking about earlier about, stopping yourself or getting in the way of yourself for solo releases. I mean, it's sort of been known about the Locust and Wild Honey record. Do you think that will see the light of day, or do you think you're too far away from you where you were when you
No,
wrote
I
it?
think I have a plan to release that in another year or two.
Yeah,
But I have the master and, you know, I'll release it. Um, just because I think it should be out there, you
yeah,
know. I think it should be out there, and um there are just some good songs in there. Songs like Feel Better or Internal Dialogue or Postcoital Kiss. And I think it's I think it's a pretty good record. And it should see the light of day. But it will just be very interesting because that's the writer and artist I was by the time it comes out. It'll be 20 years old.
yeah,
You know, that's I have trepidation about releasing something like that. But at the same time, I feel like there are a couple of songs on there that I still truly relate with. So it's okay to put out.
yeah. I mean, how does the 2026 look for you? I mean, is it solo focused? Are Rival Sons doing
I
anything?
have a very, I have
How do
a
you feel?
very busy, I have a very, very busy year.
I bet.
I've got, I have a lot going on this year. Um, the album, the Weapons of Beauty will be coming out, and very soon here, Rival Sons is going into the studio, and so we'll be making our next record. We're still working to get this documentary finished,
Hmm.
so there will be a Rival Sons movie. So the director, producer, and they're trying to put this together. So I'll be touring for Weapons of Beauty, United States, UK, and Europe, and then the Rival Sons will be touring United States and UK and Europe. So
Full on,
there's
yeah.
a there's a lot to do, man. And you know, the following year, 2027, I'll be doing the same thing because I'll be going back into the studio, or I'll be going back in and writing another solo record. And then Rival Sons will be doing the same thing. So it's like it's
Around.
just it's a nonstop thing, you know. As a musical artist, that's what you do. You write songs and you make records and then you tour. So that's basically all there is to do.
Doesn't seem,
Thankfully, thankfully it's all very, very enjoyable.
that's the main thing. That's the main thing,
Yeah.
man. Jay, thanks for your time, and I'm really glad to hear that there's plans for more UK shows with Weapons of Beauty. I'm really enjoying this record, and I'm looking forward to seeing you live, solo wise, so that I can enjoy on that front. When we aired the interview on the radio, the True Black will have just been released, so we're gonna play that after we air this interview with us. So I wondered if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about True Black.
Oh, True Black, yeah. True Black was one of those. True Black is such a confessional song. It was really. It's thinking about all of the people that I've been fortunate to have in my life that have helped me. And at the same time, the people that I've inadvertently hurt or taxed because of their loyalty and their love for me. Because you go through a lot just trying to become yourself, you know. And it was wanting to pay homage and to be thankful toward those people in particular, you know. That chorus there, it says, paint my casket true black. Or no, I'll start with the opening line. It says, as I walk side by side with the wicked and the righteous, I wondered to which one of them I truly belong. I have tread the narrow path, and I have stumbled through the darkness. And the right I've done by many is all for those that I've done wrong. Paint my casket true black, and for all I might have cost you, I hope to earn it back. It's speaking directly to those people for all of my mistakes and all of my misgivings. I'm trying to do a good job here. I'm trying to do it right, you know. I'm sorry that sometimes I can be such a fuck up, but I'm really doing the best I can.
Yeah, I think we're all like that, mate. I think we all try our best, but we all fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I like that song. I think it turned out great.
Yeah, it's a great track, man. Jay, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been great to catch up with you, dude. And yeah, I'll see you when you're next over in the UK, my friend.
All right, Lee. Take care of yourself and Happy New Year, bud.
Happy New Year to you too, Jay. Take care.
Cheers.